Iceland, a country of wild beauty and dramatic contrasts. Less known is its increasingly equal society.
Spurði hann einhvern tímann, ætlar þú að vera súpermann? Og hún alveg, nei, ég vil vera súperkona.
It's the only country in the world to have closed more than 90% of its gender gap. From education to childcare to equal pay, women and girls enjoy a progressive lifestyle.
Iceland's most important role is to be a lighthouse for the rest of the world.
But is everything as perfect as it seems?
We have been marketed as this feminist paradise, which we are not.
We want to hear from women about the challenges they still face and how they continue to fight to improve their country even further.
We believe that we are changing the world.
Iceland has topped gender equality rankings for the last 15 years. Perhaps one of the secrets to their success: start early. This is Laufasberg, a nursery school in the capital, Reykjavik. They do things a bit differently. The boys and the girls are separated for most of the day and are encouraged to do things usually associated with the opposite sex. It's called compensation work. The girls are taught to be unapologetic and fierce. Meanwhile, the boys are doing something very different. They're getting in touch with their caring side, giving each other compliments and massages. It's a teaching method called hjalli. The idea is that they develop their personalities without the pressures and constraints of conventional gender stereotypes. About 8% of Icelandic children attend these schools, and demand is growing. They've opened 17 across the country.
We need to start at the very beginning. 2 years old, they have formed their idea of what it means to be a boy or a girl. And that will limit them for the next years, especially when they're having this concrete way of thinking. It is either or, boy or a girl, you know. So we need to start early. I love what I'm doing. We all do. We believe that we are changing the world.
Iceland is a small nation of about 400,000 people. In 2018, it became the first country to require employers to prove that they pay people equally. Essentially, paying men more than women for the same job is illegal. Staying in the workforce can be hard for many women once they start a family. This is known as the motherhood penalty, but not in Iceland. Parental leave here is 12 months, and the mother and the father can split it equally. Katrin and Fanna have 5 kids. Today, whilst Fanna takes them to school, Katrin is off to work. Her job is in the salmon farming industry.
My role here is I'm an aqua technician, work on the cages, just make sure that all the equipment's working, make sure the oxygen's good, the temperature's good, the salmon looks good.
What's your favourite thing about your job?
Probably just being in the nature, being kind of like one with the ocean.
Have you ever felt, oh, if I get pregnant, things will be hard for me at work?
No, never. I've never felt like the pressure of not having kids because of my career.
Now that you're on paternity, what is a typical day with your daughter or with your kids when Catherine's not around?
Ég fer með þeim í fótbolta. Ég fer með þeim á ströndina. Bara name it, sko. Bara sem þau vilja gera. Það var svona erfiðar en ég hélt að vera foreldri. En ég vandist þessu mjög fljótt.
It's not a maternal thing to take care of the kids. You know, dads can take care of the kids just as well as women can.
This policy has had a profound impact here. 90% of all fathers take paternity leave. Research shows that after going back to work, they continue to be significantly more involved. Sharing childcare from the very beginning, it seems, makes a long-term difference. It sounds obvious to benefit women, elect women in positions of power, but around the world, very few countries have a woman head of state. Iceland was the first country in the world to elect a woman president in 1980. Now I'm on my way to meet Iceland's current president, and you've guessed it, it's a woman.
Is Iceland a great place to be a woman?
It is, but that doesn't mean we don't have work to do. We have opportunities in Iceland to not just lead as women, but to be authentically who we are. There's a step beyond just representation that I think we sometimes forget to talk about, where women are allowed to bring their true leadership and approach to the table and not just be like men. So I think we have actually reached levels in Iceland where we have and are shifting culture.
That shift is everywhere to see. Iceland recently became the first country in the world to issue a gender bond of 50 million euros to provide affordable housing for women on low incomes and to improve parental leave even further. There's an equality representative in all schools and universities, and all names are gender neutral. So, is this really a feminist paradise?
Even if Iceland has made all this progress in a short period of time, something that is much harder to eradicate in any society, really, is gender violence. I want to find out just how much of a problem that is here.
A quarter of Icelandic women have experienced rape or attempted rape, and around 40% have been subjected to physical or sexual violence. I've come to a small port town just outside Reykjavik to meet Hulda.
Hi.
Hi, Hulda.
As a child, she was abused by her grandfather, but for years she was too scared to speak out. In 2017, she founded OFGA, a feminist organization.
When you talk about or hear about Iceland, everybody says like this is the safest country in the world, we are the happiest, women are the safest. We have been marketed as this feminist paradise, which we are not. Of course we have less gun violence, of course we have less gang violence, but at home we are not any more safe than women anywhere else in Europe.
Why do you think it's such a big issue here?
Violence thrives in silence, and we have been taught since we were young to forgive and to forget and stay quiet. Our organization is for survivors done by survivors of gender-based violence, and we use all our sources, our social media, our energy to give survivors of gender-based violence a safe place to give their voice. We didn't start like really speaking up about what happened to us until Me Too in 2017. So now women are starting to say like, this happened to me, this is what did it to me.
Some women in Iceland believe the justice system has let them down in a systemic way. More than 80% of reports of sexual violence are dropped. They never make it to court. And because of that, the state is being sued for misogyny.
Do you think that the government is doing enough to tackle the issue of gender violence?
No, I don't think any government is doing enough. As long as there's gender-based violence, we're not doing enough.
Að Ísland eitt öruggasta land í heimi nema að þú sért kona.
We're at a vigil to remember all the Icelandic women who have been killed by men It just shows that even in a country that is supposed to be a great place for women, things are far from perfect.
En í kvöld lýkur vetri, sér hvers vinnandi manns, og á morgun skín maísól, það maísólin.
Iceland has closed more than 90% of its gender gap. It's the only country in the world to have done so. At this rate, when do you think that Iceland will close the gender gap?
My ambition is for Iceland to be first to close the gender gap, and hopefully by 2030.
Do you think that's realistic?
Probably not a realistic goal, but we don't need realistic goals now. We need courageous goals, ambitious goals.
Do you feel optimistic about the changes that the new generation, your daughter's generation, will bring?
Absolutely. My daughters are so well educated about consent. They will hopefully take that into their relationship if they have one in the future. You don't need to have like a husband and 2 children and a house. Like you can be or a wife. I would, or a wife.
I feel like it's really important that you get the time to still be yourself.
I actually think maybe Iceland's most important role is not only to close its own gender gap, but to be a lighthouse for the rest of the world.